and welcome to a video tutorial learning about single variable inequalities. We've been talking about how to solve inequalities, and the thing that came up in the last video was that whenever we multiply or divide by a negative number in our process of solving things out, whenever we do that to both sides of the inequality, we see we have to reverse the inequality. Well, in this video, I want to get into the why. Why do we need to reverse the inequality? Why do we need to change it from less than to greater than whenever we multiply both sides by -3, for example, or something like that? So this is where we're going to get into a little bit of that to hopefully have it make some sense, because I believe as a teacher, if you can understand the why, it makes it easier to get into the details and actually do the problem, because you kind of know what you're doing it for. Okay, let's start talking. We got a number line here. We're going to talk about, numbers as you go to the right, they get greater. As you go to the left, you get less. And we're going to actually play around with some inequalities here. We're not going to do any variables to make it really easy to see. So here we got 4 is greater than 3. We would all agree that's a true statement, right? So I'm going to say 4 is greater than. I'm going to put a little blue circle and put the 4 there. And right now the 3 is less than. I'm going to put it in a red. The 3 less than, it means it's to the left of the number line. Okay, but let's watch what happens here. I'm going to multiply both sides by -2, so I'm going to do the same thing to both sides. So I'm going to multiply the right side by -2, and I'm going to multiply the left side by -2, and let's see what we end up with now for my inequality. So 3 times -2 is going to become -6. And -2 times 4 is going to become -8. Well, let's think about what we have here now. So -8 is right here, and -6 is to the right of -8. So the -6 now becomes the greater one, right? -6 is right here. And the -8, this side now becomes less than. It's right there. So to reflect that change, this 3 or this 4 was greater, but it ended up becoming less because it got multiplied by -2. Whereas the 3 was less to begin with, but when we multiplied it by -2, now it's to the right of the number line. So guess what I have to do to account for all these changes? Notice the left side was positive, now it's negative. This was positive, now it's negative. To account for all these signs, I have to reflect what is true, that -6 is now greater than -8. So I have to reverse the sign. Well, let's try another one. Let's divide both sides by 4 and see if things still kind of end up being true. So I'm going to divide the right side by -4. And I'm going to divide the left side by -4. Well, what do we have now? -6 divided by -4. A negative divided by negative turns into positive, so I end up with +1/2, 1.5, 1.5. And -8 divided by -4 turns into +2. Well, look where we got back to now. 2 is actually bigger than 1.5, so I've got to reverse the inequality again to reflect that change. 2 is bigger than 1.5. And if I went and plotted it, so now this side becomes bigger again, and that's at 2. So my -8 now becomes +2, right over there. And that's happier now because it's bigger, whereas the 1.5 is now less. And the -6, as soon as we divide it by -4, turned into 1.5. Okay, so there's an example. Again, we took some real numbers. We can clearly see what has to be bigger and what has to be smaller. And whenever we do division or multiplication by a negative, it really kind of makes things a little bit wonky. We just need to reverse the sign to reflect the changes that are happening. So hopefully it gives you a nice pictorial, a good way, a tangible way of seeing why we need to reverse that sign.